Hello, welcome to my Skater XL modding tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to load 3D animated assets into Skater XL as well as assign custom C# behavior scripts to any mod objects that you import. I'll be skipping over a lot, but I'll also provide footnotes as I go along. So let's get started. So here we are in Unity Hub, and I'll click Create New Project on the top right. So this is the version of Unity that I'm using to make these files. This is the same version of Unity that Skater XL uses. If you're making modded maps or other things, it's a good practice to use this, but we're only going to be using Unity to build asset bundles. So long as you have the correct render pipeline selected, as I do here, then you should be good to go. Hello, it's me from the future. So Skater XL actually uses HDRP to render. I kind of goofed up here and selected URP. So when you're following along this tutorial, make sure you select HDRP instead. You'll see me catch this later on, and just make sure when you're assigning material shader scripts that you select ones that are from HDRP. If you do have a project or you do make the project in the wrong render pipeline, you can switch it over, and I'll show you how later in the tutorial. So our project is done loading. Here I create a new scene and delete the sample scene, but nothing we build in this scene will ever be exported, so we don't really need to worry about it. I just like having a clean blank scene. For this tutorial, I found a free Santa Claus rig on the Unity Asset Bundle store. I'm just going to download it, which I need to be signed in to do. And then I'm going to import everything that it comes with. So if you're trying to import your own objects from Maya or other softwares, you may have to change or create new materials in Unity. You see me doing this, just swapping over the default 3D materials that it imports with. I'm not really going to dive into how to do it, but there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube to find out how to do this step. So I had to take this rig into Maya and fix some of its joint orientations just so I could somewhat animate it. I wanted Santa to do a little dance here, but this rig was so painful to work in that I kind of just defaulted to a Santa squat. So now that we're back in Unity, you're going to want to create a new animator. I'm just trying to get Santa to loop in the squatting animation the second he spawns, so I just set this entry node to a new state that will loop back upon itself forever. If you have a more complicated mod, this is definitely one of the places where you can make it more complicated. However, scripts aren't able to be bundled with asset bundles and can't be loaded from asset bundles when you call them in the game. So if you actually want scripts that can control an object's animation, you're also going to need a script that can find the animator game component of your character or prefab and attach itself to that at runtime. So I didn't show this while recording, but I put the skinned mesh in a prefab of its own and assigned it its materials. This is also where I assign the object its animator, and I will be able to see if the animator is working correctly if I hit play and he immediately starts squatting. So at this point it's time to create the asset bundle. The package manager is where you can find packages created by Unity or any other publisher, and they can contain anything from scripts to plugins to models and textures. In the top right, I'm going to use the search bar to find the asset bundle browser. I'm going to click install and wait for it to load. And once it's installed, I'm going to be able to find it under the Window tab, and then I'm just going to drag this next to the Hierarchy tab. I drag and drop my prefab to the left side of the Asset Bundles window, and I can see that it creates a new asset bundle with all the elements contained in my prefab. And whatever you name it up here will become the name of the file that gets created. We're going to keep our build target on standalone Windows since we're building this for the PC version, and save it to a place where you'll be able to find it later. I picked LZM4 for my compression type. This is actually the most memory-friendly type of compression. The no compression and chunk-based compression are actually pretty similar and don't need to be decompressed at runtime. But since we're going to be putting everything into one asset bundle, we don't have any dependencies, so it's best that we just pick LZM4. And then we're going to hit build. So it's finished loading, and these are all the files that got created. At the top, you can see the Santa Squat file that we made. You can also find it since it's the only file with more than 1 kilobyte. Oftentimes when you build asset bundles, it won't have a file extension. There's no actual required extension for asset bundles. A common convention is to use .unity3d or .bundle. Right below that is our manifest file. Every asset bundle that you build will come with one of these. And it just tells Unity when it's trying to load an asset bundle, what's in the asset bundle, what version the asset bundle is, and if it has any dependencies to other asset bundles. Third down, we have what's called the manifest bundle and the manifest bundles manifest. We can choose to use the manifest bundle to auto-load dependencies if we have put materials and the object's materials in separate asset bundles. But since we've just used standard compression and everything's one asset bundle, we can actually delete everything except our one asset bundle. These next steps aren't necessary, but they're fun tips and tricks. The third tab of the asset bundles window is called the Inspect tab. It allows you to see what's inside any asset bundles you load in. It's a good way to check to make sure all your materials, shaders, objects are in there. You can also use a third-party program called Asset Studio to see what's inside asset bundles. Here you can see all the separated components of our prefab as well as the prefab object itself. And lastly, let's say you did use the wrong render pipeline in your project and you're getting pink textures like I am right here. Once again, you're going to open your package manager and search for high definition render pipeline. And you're just going to install it like you did before. When you're done installing, you will likely get this pipeline wizard. The only button you need to hit is upgrade HDRP materials at the bottom. If you don't get this wizard, you can also just go to edit, render pipeline, and upgrade project materials to HD materials. And lastly, you're going to want to open your project settings. And under rendering, you're going to want to set your rendering asset to the HDRP asset. These steps will probably throw you a bunch of errors and warnings in your console, but don't worry about them, just make sure that your materials don't show pink anymore. And now we are done with the Unity part of this tutorial. In a part 2 video, I will go over coding, building, and implementation, but for now you are done with Unity. You can close the program. And if you do have any problems with steps, I will try to get back to any comments, but also know that this took me quite a while to figure out, so troubleshooting and figuring out what's wrong is really where you learn and understand the most, so do not get discouraged.